Hello and welcome to the GHPC developer stream for December 2021. We have been doing this for quite a while now. It's pretty cool. Every 2 months for, well, it's got to be a year and change now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. If you're wondering who our guest is, it's either Santa in Kavi's glasses or Kavi in Santa's beard. I haven't decided which one yet. But we'll figure it out. If he answers any questions about tanks correctly, we'll know it's Santa. Glad to see everybody here. We got some cool stuff we've been working on. First of all, I want to say welcome to all the new community members. We've had a big uptick in people playing the game and joining the Discord and all that stuff because of some videos that went out showcasing the voice acting in GHPC, which is pretty cool to see. We're very excited about that. And all the new patrons as well. You guys are making development possible. Your support is the only income that we have, and it's very important. So if you are not on that and you would like to support the game and get access to the unrestricted demo with the Abrams and BMP and all that stuff, patreon.com/GHPC, you know where to get it. All right, so let's get into it. We've been working on some big features coming up. So let me talk a little bit about how the next update is going. As those of you know who have been with the project for a while, we typically do an update at the beginning of the month within the first week or so. That's usually a major update. And then we do a hotfix or a patch minor update about a week later, typically. That gives us enough time to work on the next big feature that we're doing, address any bugs that come in, and it keeps things moving along pretty consistently. This time, this patch cycle, the feature that we're working on is a little bigger than usual, so it's not ready for this week. So what we're going to do is we're going to release another minor patch within the next couple of days of all the various bug fixes and minor feature stuff that we've been working on, but the rest of it is going to have to be saved for the rest of the month. And I will talk a little bit about what that's going to be. So let me pull up the game while we're talking.
Thank you, Scarlet Crusader, for the $5 drop.
Oh yeah, those donations, we really appreciate those. Thank you. Those do go to the project as well.
Do you want to know his question?
What was his question?
Multiplayer win.
Multiplayer win. That's actually a good question. So we have put a roadmap in our Discord channel for a while. Discord server, I mean. And the roadmap does change a bit as we see how development's going and we reprioritize things. One thing that we've said for a while is around the end of this year, we wanted to start testing multiplayer with Patron supporters. As we get down to it, multiplayer has been in development for some time now, and it's not quite ready. So we're thinking probably the beginning of next year, but multiplayer is coming. It's going to be cooperative multiplayer, not PvP. That's something to maybe look at in the future. For now, it's going to be co-op, PvE, and it's going to start as a Patreon benefit only. That's our way of saying thanks to our supporters who are making the development possible, and it gives us a chance to iron out any issues before it gets released to a wider audience. So the answer is soon. Sooner than before. It's actively in development. We have a developer specifically dedicated to just that feature, and it is coming. I'm excited about that because there are some people that I have been waiting to fight for a while.
Is it me?
Yeah.
What launcher is the game going to use? That's a great question because that is also something that has changed in the last month, I want to say.
Yeah, so before there wasn't really an answer to that. It was, whatever we come up with eventually. But within the last month, we launched the Steam page for GHPC, which is new. That has not been the case before. So, there may not actually be a launcher. It might just be launch it straight from Steam. Let me turn my music down here. So, if you haven't already, you can go and wishlist Gunner Heat PC on Steam. That helps us a lot. It helps gauge interest for launch, as well as making the game more visible, I believe, in coming soon. I think we're going to put a link to that in the main menu soon as well, because we're missing it currently. But yeah, if you search Gunner Heat PC on Steam, it should come right up. It's got a whole store page. It's listed as coming soon. I think we have it listed as summer 2022, which is what we're planning for an early access release, if I'm not mistaken. And that could change if development goes different ways or whatever, you know, unforeseen circumstances, but we're pretty confident we can hit that right now. Alright, let's get into a mission here.
I see a lot of people in the chat going, wish listing it. Thank you. That definitely helps. Whatever Steam does to show that off to the larger algorithm for tank and military-esque vehicles, we've definitely noticed that in our metrics. So please do. Appreciate it.
Yeah, everything that you guys do as far as sharing the game, talking about the game, that actually helps us a lot. We have no advertising budget. We're a very small team. So we pretty much rely on word of mouth, and that's you. That's all you guys.
So what you showing off?
I'm playing one of the missions just while I wait for questions to come in.
Oh, okay, good. I think I saw this earlier. Leopard 1?
Yes. I don't know if it came up in the slideshow before stream, but we have a Leopard 1 in progress.
Comes up every stream. People love it.
Yep.
Menu soundtrack does slap.
Yeah, it's actually available on SoundCloud. If you, I believe it's linked in our YouTube descriptions for the trailers. Where is this guy? That was made by majoriss. He did some very nice soundtrack work for us. Definitely go check that out if you want to listen to the soundtrack outside the game.
Is Wally finished? Wally is not finished. It's in one of those states where it has dropped in priority for us to work on other things.
I mean, it's on the short list of things that we could add as a supplementary item, but I don't know exactly when.
When will there be a game to buy for a single price? Not really a fan of Patron.
When it releases on Steam mid next year, as probably early access, you'll be able to pay one price for it and get it. I know there's a lot of people waiting until that point, so I'm very excited for that.
Seems like there's a sound delay.
Really?
Yeah, for the stream. I've seen a couple of people,
On the way.
Your computer is playing sound. Maybe they're hearing that from my mic or something? Or, shit, that doesn't make any sense.
All lens muted. And I have headphones.
Oh, I could hear it through your headphones then or something.
Yeah, I definitely heard the delay though.
Interesting.
Delay for you?
I mean, no, because I have
There we go.
the main source, so...
You're a Gunner PC. All our streamers are the strongest.
Yeah, we're professional streamers and all that. So let's any significant improvements to the AI coming soon? Figmo. It depends. So some parts of the AI are being improved. As far as this patch, we have some changes made to the voices so that they don't switch targets as much. Actually, that is the regular AI as well. The AI sticks to targets better than it used to, and it prioritizes better. And so as a result, you'll get less jumping around where the TC is always saying next target. That should stop. Also, there was an issue where the TC would call doubtful on solid hits. You'd nail a target and they go doubtful, re-engage, and that didn't make any sense. So that's stopping as well. I found that bug, fixed it. As far as what I'm guessing more people are concerned about, which is the driving, like tanks running into each other and that kind of thing, that hasn't been fixed yet. There's a lot of different components to the AI, and we don't have time to do all of them at once, basically. That'll get done, when we can, eventually. We're putting a lot of time into doing new features for the game, which I will discuss in a moment. So there's not always developer bandwidth to fix everything as soon as we know about it.
Yeah, especially with holidays, since Josh Action, call him whatever you want, is the only full-time developer right now. Something we hope to change Patron support soon. We gotta prioritize some of these features to go out so we can get ready for that mid-year release next year.
Yeah, we do a lot of sorting of different things that we need to do and figure out which is most important at the time.
Your front door. Will patrons be able to get a discount for the Steam game when it releases? That's an interesting question, because that's something we're thinking of overall for how we're going to look at how the Patreon keeps supporting us while Steam is available to us as well. Where the public demo is going to come from, or where you're going to be able to download that. Is itch going to be a client that we use as well? So, we're trying to work out a way to reward longtime patrons who have been helping us, but at the same time, keep getting that support from people who want to keep supporting us once we've gone early access or whatever the case with Steam. So undecided right now, but I hope to change that tune in the near future.
Yeah, some things won't become clear until closer to release, because we have to do a lot of checking of numbers and expenses and things, figure out what makes sense. Been seeing... Well, first I see the question about the campaign mode from Scarlet Crusader. Thanks for the 5. I'll talk about that in a sec. I have a whole segment planned for that. I've been seeing a lot of questions about the Russian or East German crew voices. Those are coming. We're actually still accepting auditions if you are a native speaker of Russian or East German, but fairly soon we'll be trying to put those in, because right now only the US tanks have crew voices, and obviously that's not going to stay like that. I saw a question about whether those are going to be in the native language or in English. They will be in the native language and subtitled. Our plan is to have every crew speaking with the correct voices for what they would actually speak, the correct commands, correct language, command flow, and then subtitling it for the player to understand. So for the people who have also asked about I can't understand what the American crews are saying, are you going to put subtitles? We'll add those when we add the other languages, the other voices. And then it should be much more clear what's going on at that point.
Subtitles will be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I can't actually hear things.
Yes.
It's only reading.
It's probably the beard. Okay, am I having audio delay on the cam, or was it just the game? I saw somebody talking about
I only saw it for just the game.
Yeah. I'm going to try restarting the game and see if it gets any better.
Multiple people saying just the game.
Okay.
So they're probably lying to you.
Yeah. Yeah, JC Alex N14 as a Bradley gunner. Love that you're using DLS. But yeah, so the target commands, the IFCs, all that stuff, we got that from Army manuals and talking to crewmen. If you want to be an advisor for the project, especially as we're working on the Bradley, you can join our Discord and contact me, and I will get you set up. It's we rely pretty heavily on first-hand expertise from people who have actually driven these things.
Question a little earlier. Is there any current plan at all to add neutral nations?
Isn't that kind of a paradox?
They followed it up with Swedish STRV 103.
I see.
Stuff like that.
So we have some ideas about what theaters we're adding later, but we're not saying any of them yet. For now, the game is starting off with a focus on one theater, which is the Fulda Gap 1985 scenario, roughly 1985. And so that's going to be US, USSR, East Germany, West Germany. Right now we have US and East Germany partially implemented in the demo. West Germany and USSR are coming. That's all we're focusing on for now. Later, who knows what'll happen. We have some other ideas, and we will get to them when we have the right time.
If you want to apply for voices and you're a native speaker, join the Discord, which I will link into the chat, and hit either myself, Kavi, or Action Scripter up.
Yeah, we can also cut to the application. There's an email at the bottom of the website. Yeah. So if you go to gunnerheatpc.com, there's an info email address listed there. If you send a message to that email saying, I want to audition for voices, I'm a native speaker of this language, we'll get you set up from there. Nordkin says, are we going to see more variation in the environment as well? It depends. We'll see what we have time for. Right now, obviously, the priority is the vehicles. We have plans for variable heat maps on vehicles and responding to different conditions like weapons firing, tracks rolling. That's going to be our first priority. If we have time to make the environment thermals fancier as well, then we'll do that, but who knows. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to try this game thing again. See if it actually works any better. I'm going to click the generate mission button, which doesn't exist in the released build right now. So let me talk about what we're doing for the major feature later. We have been planning a campaign mode for a while, and a campaign mode has a lot of stuff that goes into it. Yes, Commando secret features. One thing that we need to have is a mechanism for generating a mission based on some kind of external conditions or scenario. Give it parameters like I want this many vehicles, I want this kind of location, I want attack and defend, and it makes the mission. This didn't exist at all in the game before because it was all handmade, manually generated stuff. So what we're doing right now is we're working on a feature where the game can create its own missions based on requirements of the campaign. What this means is that there will be a feature coming where you will be able to jump into a mission that has been created at that moment that didn't exist in the game. It wasn't manually authored. Nobody else necessarily will have the same mission. It's completely unique. And once that's actually working, we can use it in the campaign mode so that when you've got a certain strategic situation, it'll make a mission to match. What I'm looking at right now is a new map that we've been working on. It's not the Point Alpha map, the 6x6 that most of our missions are on right now. This is an 8x8 in the Fulda region. And this is where we'll be basing our generated missions, the first few. I think we're going to be making other maps as well in the same theater, but this is the next one that we've been making. And right now I've unhooked all of the dynamic mission generating stuff. I just have the one T-55 there that I spawned in so that we could get in the map. But that's just to show it off. So we're working on this actual logic of the mission composer and getting that sorted. That's what's taking all the time. That's why we're not doing a major release yet.
Two things I saw. One, someone mentioned that it's like the instant action kind of set up in the old demo. Well, it's even better because it's doing all of this generation based off of different nodes. Those instant action items were all manually authored.
Yeah, the old demo instant action was actually a lot like what we have right now for the missions. The old demo didn't have any kind of dynamic generation or anything like that.
And then the second item was a good question. Do we see like kind of being able to do generated missions or campaign in a co-op sense?
I think so. I don't think there's anything stopping us from having multiple players join a generated mission. But that's something that we'll get into more once we start releasing multiplayer tests.
Yeah. Once we test that functionality and see how it works with like having one server author the mission and then pass that data around to multiple people who might want to play with them, and we'll kind of work out those details, but I think it would be really cool.
Yeah. So this is a completely new area, and if this goes the way I think it will, you'll only be seeing this map for generated missions for the most part. So it's going to feel very fresh for people who have been playing the existing ones for a while. You're not going to recognize your surroundings for a bit until you get used to the new map, and that'll be cool.
You said it's set in the Fulda region. Is it just a variation of terrain, hills, roads, that sort of thing that they could expect to see?
I mean, it's kind of exactly what you get on the tin, right? Like, it's more German countryside terrain. It's a real area, just like the other map, but this time the area doesn't really matter. It's more the region that it represents. I don't remember exactly the map location. I think it's southwest of Point Alpha somewhere, like in between Fulda and Point Alpha, kind of. But this has a lot more interesting terrain than the existing Point Alpha map. Point Alpha has a lot of giant, wide open sight lines and like a big hill, a couple of big hills. This is more up and down and has little culverts and valleys and things. Should be some interesting tactical maneuvering to be had here.
What do you think about seasonal variations of maps that we have in the future?
Seasonal variations, some are very easy to do and some are very hard. So if we wanted to do like say winter, that's not just turning off the grass and doing a snow layer shader. We'd have to do like make all the leaves be gone from the trees, the deciduous trees, put frost on things. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So I would say for now, don't expect any major seasonal stuff. That would be more of a, if we got a bunch of things done for the core gameplay and we wanted to start making it more interesting, we could maybe do that. I don't know.
Technical question, how's the game going to handle 2-for-1 penetration? Say I hit an APC with a Sabo, goes through and hits another APC behind that. I'm pretty sure we already have that modeled.
Yeah, that can already happen.
Yeah.
If you fire a projectile in Gunner EPC, it has its penetration mechanics modeled as closely to reality as we can make it, within reason. And it doesn't just vanish when it hits a vehicle. It's still physically represented in the game. It still has whatever leftover energy after the armor penetration. So if you line up a bunch of thin targets and you've overmatched, you can hit multiple vehicles in a row. I've seen people do it on purpose with the Proving Ground. They line up several vehicles and shoot them all from the side, see how many they can shish kebab. Yeah, it's definitely doable. Let's test the audio sync. Did that come in on time or no?
Try it again. Nope.
Interesting. Maybe that machine's having issues today or something. At least the talking works.
TK1, thank you for the donation. It's very appreciated. Yeah, like a second or two too late for some reason. That's
Interesting. I'll have to check my settings for next one.
At least the important part works. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Bonbon asks, will NPC forces attempt to disengage dynamically? Yes, they will. One thing that we have been working on that's not done yet either is having a tactical AI sort of directing each force. So if you get in a situation where you're very clearly destroying the other side and they need to retreat, they will be able to do that. Instead of sticking around to get picked off one by one, they'll be able to withdraw, and then of course you would win that scenario. Right now it's kind of a total destruction sort of deal. One side wins by annihilating the other, except for certain missions that have other win conditions. I don't remember which one it was. I took too long to engage the force. I think it was hunting Goliath, maybe. I took too long to engage because I was trying to flank and be clever, and I got a message that blue forces had reached their objective, and that was it. I lost. So we have a few tricks up our sleeves for that, but right now most of the time we don't use it.
Improvements that we can expect in environment graphics in the future. I feel like, aside from additional fidelity, more improvements we can give is optimization.
Yeah, there's certain things we could still maybe do. You reach a point where if you want a big map and you also want it to look good, you're going to have to start making compromises. So don't expect crazy good tree shaders and god rays and everything, and also an 8-kilometer map with 12K sightlines. Like, that's a tall order. That's like AAA studio kind of, let's get a dedicated engineer to make this work deal. We don't have that. So you're going to see it'll be good enough, and then we focus on the tanks shooting each other. There's only so much we can do. Obviously we'll do whatever we can, but it's not going to be like, yeah, and a year from now we'll have perfect tech demo level environment. Like, don't expect that.
Right. I noticed since you added the platoon mutual comms between tanks, it feels like the comms happen too fast. What are you basing your timing on for these actions?
You talking about communicating threats to each other kind of stuff?
I think so, yeah. They, Mike CZ also notes it feels like they happen too fast. Same with gunners adjusting their aiming.
Gunners adjusting their aiming is definitely too fast because we haven't put in inertia yet on the turrets. So the computer can immediately know where it needs to aim and just go, especially the Abrams. It just instantly aims at you. That's going to get fixed when we add more realistic physics on the turret rotation. So yeah, that's no problem. But as far as the communication, it takes a few seconds. I assumed pretty ideal conditions, like they're on the net immediately and telling a direction. We could adjust that up or down pretty easily. Some of that comes down to when we get closer to release and we're going through looking for, this could change, this could be better, then we can modify things like that.
Mm-hmm. For multiplayer, is PvP something that we are looking to add?
PvP is a maybe. It's because on the implementation level, PvP is not really any different from PvE. Once everybody's in a multiplayer situation, they could shoot each other and then it becomes PvP. But you can't have good PvP without things like anti-cheat. So it's a significantly harder task than just having PvE. And I don't know if or when we're going to have the resources for that harder task. So what we've been doing is saying we prioritize single player and PvE, and then let's say the game does really well and we can bring on engineers specifically for PvP stuff, maybe we'll look into it.
And that's the other thing for, getting good quality co-op and PvE means we have to have competent, exceptional AI so you feel supported alongside you're not just a one-person army. So, getting that down and getting that working is a whole different set of detail that we're going to be working on too. So once that's standardized, maybe.
Get ready, stable index.
But I want a tank with my man Action here, and I want him to show me the ropes.
I thought you were a master gunner.
Well, everyone can improve.
I saw another question in here. Yeah, so Greebob Rat asks, will artillery be added? Will players have to take that into account, i.e. fire from hold down then move? There will be artillery. We haven't decided all of the rules for it yet. We don't know if you'll always be able to call it in as support, for example, or if there will be some scenario-based stuff to it. But we do intend to have things like indirect fire, air support, infantry. Those round out the battlefield and they provide the tactical environment that the tanks were meant to fight in, so we think it's important to portray them as well. What else have we got? I know there's probably still sound delay, but I'm gonna do gunnery anyway, because...
Now you just want to play the game.
Yeah, I just want to play the game. Shit, maybe I'll turn the game down, and then...
Someone asked, is there any more plan for urban areas from villages to cities? And I noted that we are considering other theaters that have more urban layouts, but we want to get Fulda down pat before we try looking into those a bit more.
Yeah. Urban has challenges in that, one, there's a lot of objects rendering, although it's probably not as brutal as trees. Trees are hard. Two, buildings can be destroyed in real life, especially by tanks. And if you don't have that reflected in the game, people will be confused. So we have to get a good building destruction system worked out before that is a consideration. We're working on ideas for that, but that's kind of in the prototype phase still, so
Yep.
We don't really know how built up any area would be necessarily. We just stick with countryside for now. In a way, we've chosen a really difficult situation to model, because trees and long sight lines are pretty brutal on rendering. We could have picked an area that had very little forest, like a desert, and it would be very easy. But we didn't. We picked Germany. And so, lucky for us, we get to solve all the hard problems first. By the way, I'm using an Xbox controller now. I just plugged it in. This has always been possible, not always. This has been possible for a while in the demo, but there were some issues with it. Currently, the fire control systems don't respond correctly, but since I'm playing the developer build, and I have a bunch of stuff that's not released yet, mine works fine, and that'll be released in the next few days when we do a patch. So for those of you who like using joysticks or controllers to do your gunnery, you'll be able to use all the features properly now.
Xbox 2021 GHPC.
Huh. This is difficult to aim though because the Xbox controller doesn't have a lot of range. What else we got?
Will tanks be researchable like in War Thunder, or need to buy it with money like in DCS?
Yeah, I saw another question as well about will you have to pay for each tank like a DCS module? You will not. So what we'll do is the base game will have the Fulda theater, and every vehicle will be in the game when you buy it. And as far as research goes, I don't see content being locked behind a grind wall. There might be things like if you qualify on a certain vehicles, you get bonus missions with them, or you get more options or something, but I really don't like the idea of having vehicles locked behind something. There's not going to be paywalls, grind walls, that sort of thing. That's part of why we're not making the game free. We think it's better to have a game that you can buy up front and you just get the stuff. That's kind of how games used to be, especially sim games, and I miss that. So that's what we're doing. However, since we want to add a lot more than we can do up front, what we'll probably do is have DLCs. And I don't mean like single vehicle you pay $60 for. I mean full-on old-fashioned game expansions where you get a whole theater, you get multiple vehicles, you get new factions. It feels like you're buying another whole complete chunk. Like, I don't know if anybody played, let's say, Battlefield 2. Great game. There were DLCs for Battlefield 2 where you would get entirely new maps, new factions, new guns. Everything came in one package. You installed it and you had it all. And that's the kind of philosophy that we're going to go for, as far as I know. Yes, DLCs like DLCs used to be, exactly. What is Moo says Northag DLC would be an instant buy. Is that because you want the UK forces? Because they were in the north? We've had a lot of people ask about the UK. They won't be featuring in the Fulda theater because they weren't really there, but we're aware of the arrangement of the rest of the NATO forces and how they were up north. There's a lot of exciting stuff that we could add to the game, as well as everybody's favorite, Desert Storm and 73 Easting and all that stuff. There's a lot of options we can look into, but like I said, we're not specifying any next theaters right now. What else? Yeah, a lot of people say that they played M1 Tank Platoon back in the day. There's a few games that seem to have the same not philosophy, but a lot of the same flavor that we're trying to hit with this one, which is Armored Fist, M1 Tank Platoon. That's what people usually bring up, and I think that's really cool that people who played those games back in the day see this as kind of a spiritual successor, because that's kind of my idea as well. I played a lot of Armored Fist 3, and I miss that game. There's not really anything like it right now.
He shows it to me every so often.
Yeah, it looks really jank now. The graphics are obviously really outdated. There's some stuff that's kind of corny. It's very clearly a game. It's an action game, but it's an action game with all the trimmings of a sim game, and that's a cool blend. I like that flavor. It's what modern IL-2 does with theater DLCs. Yeah, I haven't played a lot of IL-2, but I think that's probably in the same realm of what we're doing. Don't take my word for it, though. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing these days. Unlockable vehicle cosmetics. That's an idea that we've kicked around, but I'm not sure exactly how it'll work. Basically, if there is a progression system for things like unlockables, it's not going to be onerous. It's not going to be to the level where you expect you're going to be able to pay to get around it because it's so bad. That's not going to be a thing. It's going to be a system that recognizes and rewards progression in the game rather than some kind of barrier to getting the content.
Thank you for the follows, everyone.
Yeah, we appreciate that. By the way, every time I look at that footer on the stream, I see the $60 from Cumjar. He's immortalized himself on the dono bar right there.
Someone's gotta. That's like a max amount donated, so someone's gotta beat him. But thank you, Cumjar.
Someone asked if there's going to be a mission where you have to protect bridge layers or recovery vehicles. For things like that, we don't know exactly how far it'll go. So, I'd like to be able to say, yeah, we'll add every vehicle that existed, every kind of armored vehicle, but it's not really true. We don't have the resources to promise everything. What I can say is we're starting with combat vehicles, and troop carriers, and then we'll add the vehicles that directly support them, like helicopters, probably off-map artillery. Something like a recovery vehicle, I don't know. It's if we have time, if it seems like it would make the game more fun, then yeah, sure. But we have to balance our resource use carefully because we are still an extremely small team. I'm the only full-timer. We have a few part-timers, a few contractors, and that's it. It's like 7 people, optimistically. And we do what we can with what we have. Which, by the way, if you want to give us more resources to work with, the Patreon is how the project is funded. Patreon.com/GunnerHeatPC. You will directly increase the amount of stuff and the pace that we can achieve. And we always appreciate that.
In the last month, we've had a ton of new support from people because YouTube's algorithm blessed us with a lot of views.
Yes.
And that has been amazing to see. We've been reached out by a couple of developers now because they see some of our success. They want to see possibly, mutual work together. So just even getting our name out there with our meager, if not non-existent marketing budget is starting to get us more people noticing us. That's a huge help because we do need more technical assistance, content creators, that sort of thing. And that's going to be really helpful in getting us towards that goal of mid-year 2022 release for Steam.
Yeah. It's a big sprint. We've done a lot of work and we'll continue to do a lot of work. Sometimes I'm surprised that we pull it off at all because of how little resources we have and the size of what we're attempting. But we're doing it and it's working, which is really awesome. Will we see more M60 variants? We have some ideas about that because in the mid-80s, the transition to the Abrams was not instant, and even the transition to the M60A3 TTS was not instant. I saw a document from fiscal year 84 that stated that there were 2,000 M60A1 Rise tanks still in the inventory, which was almost the same amount as M60A3s. So we know that older M60 variants were still around, and if we have time, I think we would like to explore that, especially because some of those older tanks have optical rangefinders, which is a whole new gameplay world. Instead of a laser rangefinder or a stadia reticle like this BMP has, you have a separate view where you have to look and match up your rangefinder halves or do a ghost image or something. They all work different ways, but you have to visually match up your target in the rangefinder and then get your range from that. That's not often represented in games. I know Steel Armor Blaze of War did it, I know some Arma mods do it, but very few other games do. And we intend to represent that. For example, in the Leopard 1, which we've teased the model for, in the T64, which patrons have seen, those tanks had optical rangefinders. The early versions of them did. And when they come to Gunner Heat PC, they will have their optical rangefinders. And that'll be pretty neat to see, I think.
Here's a cool question for multiplayer. What's the scope in terms of size? Platoon, multiple platoons, companies? What are we thinking?
This questions about scale as far as how many vehicles in a scenario. There isn't a solid answer yet, because the issue with having this game in development is right now it can only handle so much. It's not optimized as well as we want it to be. Later it'll be better. We don't know how much better though. We don't know what the ceiling is. That's down to the work that we'll be able to do in the future. We'll find out when we get there, basically. I'm trying to guide the Melyuka in on target. Hey, it's very challenging, manual command missiles. Is there going to be multiple options for aiming controls in the future? Welcome, it's Mental Gaming. Yes. Okay, so technically, right now we do have multiple options in that there's a key that you can bind for toggling aim. So I just turned it on, and now when I'm looking around with my mouse, the turret's following all the time. And when I go into first-person view, I'm in aiming mode all the time without holding. But it's still using the same control, which is the traverse speed, joystick kind of control instead of mouse aim. I think what you're asking is, are we going to add War Thunder style mouse aim? And the answer is maybe. There are some technical considerations there, because if we add it just kind of naively, it's very snappy, like first-person shooter kind of aiming. We don't want that. That's not how tanks work. So we'd have to engineer some stuff to make sure that it's realistically smooth or slow, but doesn't feel sluggish, and that's its own kind of thing that we need to spend time on, and that's not a high priority right now.
Are you telling me I need to practice with the tank and I can't 360 no scope?
Yes. I mean, especially in this sim where we have all these systems represented, and you have things like dynamic lead, where it takes into account your traverse rate and stuff. The tanks like the Abrams, they just straight up don't work the way they're supposed to if you have instant aiming and FPS style control. So we have to develop a system for that lets people use a control scheme that they're more familiar with, but also doesn't completely change the way the tanks handle. It can be done, but it's not at the top of our list right now. So we're going with a maybe on that, basically. We're aware of the idea that people want that, but it's not happening at the moment.
Not Santa Dedushka Kavi. I don't know what that means. Oh, yeah, I'll go with that.
Let's get some autoloader X-ray going here. Oh yeah. That's good stuff. I really like the T-72. It's a neat tank. And of course we have the autoloader implemented so that it takes the correct amount of time to rotate around to the shell that you selected. Nobody asked for this, but I'm glad it's there.
You asked for it.
Toxie, yes, that's true. I decided it should be there, and then I made it. Toxie says, any news on the T-64? Let's see. T-64. Right now, if I remember correctly from the tracker, it is in the internal component modeling stage, which means all this stuff in the X-ray. In fact, let me actually go to an X-ray. There we go. So all this stuff inside the tanks has to be modeled, and then it has to be imported and hooked up, designated for what is it, what does it do, does it explode, does it damage the system, all that needs to be done. It's a lot of work. It takes a couple of days to set up a vehicle once all the modeling's done even. T-64 is still in the internal modeling phase, which means we have the exterior model done. We've done all the research, but somebody is still working on crafting all of these pieces that you see. And then once those are ready, we can send it to Unity and set it up so that it reacts properly and the vehicle does everything it's supposed to. And once that's done, we need to, for the T-64 specifically, hook up the coincidence rangefinder, which is going to be a really cool new addition to the gunnery. Then at that point, it still needs a reticle, because again, we don't share reticles. Everything's unique, all the fire control systems are modeled. Then at that point, the vehicle is ready to put in the game. It's a big, long sequence of events, and so it's progressing. It's not there yet. Really curious how you're going to nail the rangefinder with easy, simple controls. We have some pretty good ideas on that, but you'll see when we release it. What else? You mentioned helicopters as a possible expansion. Will we see close-in anti-aircraft like Vulcans, Gepards, Shilka, and will they be player controllable? What are you doing? Oh, okay. I hear this rustling in the background. Okay, so self-propelled anti-aircraft, SPAA. First of all, very cool, and if I don't get the Shilka in the game, I will complain to whoever's in charge, which is me. Second, yeah, they'll be featured in close proximity because that was the point of those close, or of those mobilized, motorized SPAA things. They would travel with the armor in a lot of cases, or they would be attached to a certain structure like regiment or brigade or whatever. We will have that represented as well. You'll have missions where you have a big force, armored push, whatever, mechanized infantry, and attached to it is certain SPAA units. So if helicopters or whatever come into the AO and threaten you, your Shilkas or whatever are attached will engage them. As far as player control goes, I would really like to have player control for those because it's baller. Oh, well, thank you, sir. I think I will take this one. Do I have to eat it over my lap, or?
That's your choice.
Somebody on Discord asked if we were going to have cookies on the stream, and Kavi said yes. And I, a fool, thought, oh, he's clearly joking. I don't need to worry about this. Then he showed up with cookies, and I said, oh boy. So here we go. Now there's cookies. QJW, where's my cookie? You know what? You can get a cookie next time.
I'll post a cookie recipe for patrons to the Discord.
Yeah, there we go. Commando, save one for me. Yeah. You'll have to come and get it.
Yeah.
See if you can manage that.
Fat chance.
Anyway, so SPAAs, yeah, they'll be in the game. We can't promise they'll be player controllable, but I'd really like to see that. I think that'd be cool. I guess we'll find out. An APF SDS shirt would be nice. Pet Ghosts, if you check on... Do we have it linked anywhere besides the Discord right now? The merch?
GunnerHeatPC.com.
Do we have it linked from GunnerHeatPC.com?
I believe so.
Okay, if you check GunnerHeatPC.com, you can find our Redbubble page from there. We get a small commission on anything that you buy there. We have the GHPC logo on shirts and stuff. We've got some posters. We've got the Steam page artwork on there. So if you would like any merch, that is the place to go. We could...
I'll get you the actual link, though.
Is it not there?
It's not there.
Why
wouldn't it be there?
Wow, did we really forget that?
I guess so.
Okay, we're going to drop it in the chat, and then we're going to fix that oversight very quickly. You know what it was? Probably when we launched it and we were like, let's not worry about this until we have more art on it, we'll announce it later, and then it just never happened. I bet that's what it was.
That makes sense.
Okay, well, now is the time. We're going to put that on the website. Hellfish, thanks for the link. You're a champ. Yeah, I actually have a GHPC shirt that I'm not wearing on this stream, but I often wear it on the streams. It's pretty nice. They've got the tri-blend on there. That's my favorite because it's good material. It's not as cheap feeling as a lot of other shirts.
Hellfish is the champ. Good job.
Yes. Another question about multiplayer from Lenny Go. Because of the philosophy behind Eastern and Western tanks, will we see asymmetry in player numbers? Very likely, yes. One of the things about GHPC is we don't... It's going to sound funny saying it. We don't believe in game balance. Because game balance can compromise the realism pretty severely. We're not going to do something like, we think the we think the equivalent of the M1 IP is the T80U, so we're going to say screw the timelines, we're just putting T80s in. That's not going to be how it works. So in situations where the one-to-one matchups of vehicles are unbalanced, you'll have reasons why it doesn't matter. Maybe the scenario is attack and defend, and you have asymmetrical forces and asymmetrical positioning, and you're not going to be doing a duel where it matters which tank is better in a one-on-one engagement. A lot of times when people ask questions about that, and it hasn't happened in a while, I think it's getting better, but in the old days people would always ask about balance and battle ratings and stuff. There's no battle rating in GHPC. That's a War Thunder question. We're not War Thunder, and we won't have War Thunder's game setups, and so it won't matter.
The balance is what you will effectively have to do to either complete or survive a set of objectives in a given scenario. Like, there's not this symmetric deathmatch thing that we're really aiming for. That's just kind of what we have now to demonstrate some fun gameplay. That's not going to be the long-term solution.
Yeah. Optimat says F's in the chat for future Leopard 1 players with this based balance philosophy. Yeah, they're going to have to rely on the mobility and shooting first, which is the case for the real Leopard 1 as well. If you can't play to your vehicle's strengths the way it was designed, you're going to have a bad time. Will we see weather systems? Yeah,
Yes.
Your front door, we have some stuff that we're working on for that. It's not ready yet, obviously, or it would be in the demo. So, but yeah, we are working on that. That's going to be a thing.
Hey, guess what?
Hmm.
It's 1 o'clock.
Is it 1 o'clock? Oh man. All right, let me get the cookie crumbs off my fingers so I can touch my keyboard. Who brought cookies to this stream? This is
I
crazy.
have more cookies that you're going to have to eat.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll eat the cookies during the Patron Q&A, which happens after every stream and every month off stream as well. For those who are not aware, and for new patrons who might not know, after every stream and also once on the off months where we don't stream, we hold a Q&A session on Discord for patrons only. It happens in a restricted channel. The way you get access to that is have any subscription level on Patreon. It could be the $1, it can be the $3 with the demo, it can be anything. And in that session, we get on a live voice chat, and you can ask us whatever you want and give direct feedback and stuff, an actual conversation. The stream is good for demonstrating stuff and saying whatever we want, but if you want to actually get focused feedback going, wow, the joystick is really interesting with that. If you want to get focused feedback going or ask a question that you don't want to have on the stream chat or whatever, those are good opportunities for that. $1 Bob says Commando. Yes, that is a very old reference to Price is Right. How do you access this if you're a Patreon supporter? Good question, JC. If you go on your Patreon account settings and link a Discord account there, you will automatically get, I think you automatically get invited to the server, but when you arrive at the server, either way, you'll automatically have access to the restricted channels. The roles will be set up for you by a bot. What else we got? We're probably going to wrap it up and get to the Q&A, so any last minute questions? Commando says touch me with cookie fingers. That is a no can do, sir.
I told him he knows where to find us.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to have to actually come over if you want that. I don't think you will.
Jerk.
How are the 3D models made? We have a couple of things we do for that. For tanks and other things that can be located in real life, we have a 3D scanning process, and this is something that people can actually help with. If you locate a Cold War vehicle in your area, maybe a monument or a museum or something, there's a tank sitting there that you have access to, you can walk around it with a phone or a camera and get video and photos of it, and if you do it properly and you send us that footage, we can automatically generate a 3D model from it. It's called photogrammetry. This technique works very well for things like tanks because the blueprints and photographs that you find online, one, the blueprints aren't usually accurate completely, they're estimations. We don't have factory drawings most of the time to reference. Two, photographs are usually not done from the perfect perspective and with the perfect field of view to use them as reference. It can be tough. So it's much easier to have a 3D model that was generated from a bunch of pictures by an algorithm that actually solves what the shapes look like. If this is done properly, we get a near perfect representation of what the tank's actual shapes are, and that's very good reference material for modeling. So once we have that, our vehicle artists build a 3D model kind of, not around it, but they build a 3D model as they usually would, but they use the 3D scan as a check. They put it in the same place and say, do these shapes match up? Did I make everything the right size? And so because of that process, we have, I think, some of the most accurate tank models in a tank game. Especially for things that are challenging to get right, like the T-72 and the Abrams. Stuff that has weird turret shapes, casting, asymmetry. The Abrams has a lot of really weird angles on it that don't necessarily look obvious in photos. So anyway, like, long story short, we have some very talented people who make these things, and we use good reference material. And I think the results are very nice.
I think that's it for now.
Yeah. Have auditions been accepted for Russian and German? So we haven't said yes or no to anybody yet. We've been very distracted by working on other things besides voice acting. So if you have sent an audition and we haven't said anything, sorry about that. It's not because we are trying to ghost you, it's because we haven't gotten to it yet. If you want to get in some last minute auditions still, you have to be a native speaker of Russian or German. That's a hard requirement, just to make sure that we have the right authenticity. But you can send an email to info@gunnerheatpc.com and we can go from there. Alright. Doom Sniper, will there be any encouragement to push platoon or company level tactics on players? We're still working out UX stuff for that, and how we're gonna try to convey tactics. I mean, even just getting people to use the gunnery systems properly might be a challenge, because you can point shoot to a certain extent and it works sort of well, so people like to do that because it's easier. But we've got some ideas about how to teach people how to use the tanks properly and how to encourage that. We'll see more of that once we polish the game up for release. Alright, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you everybody for coming to the stream, and for Patreon subscribers, we will see you in Discord in a few minutes.
Bye-bye.